when an arrogant judge barked across the courtroom demanding that I remove my military medal. He had no idea he was about to end his own career. I stood before the bench in my sharp dress uniform with 2 decades of service weighing on my shoulders. My sister-in-law sat nearby with a cruel grin, confident she was about to take everything I owned. She had no clue what sat inside my leather briefcase. My name is Valerie, and I spent nearly 20 years serving in uniform, enduring physical hardship and burying close companions along the way. I received a prestigious service medal during an intense overseas deployment that I rarely speak about with anyone. I never bragged about my awards or sought applause at family gatherings because true honor does not require public praise. I simply wanted to live quietly and peacefully after returning home from active duty. My brother Russell married Brenda 12 years ago, and from the very beginning she calculated the monetary value of our family property. When our parents passed away within 2 years of each other, they left the humble family home jointly to Russell and me. It was a modest house built on years of happy memories, surrounded by oak trees planted long ago. I viewed the property as sacred, but Brenda saw only a fast cash payout. Brenda began pressing Russell to sell the home, whispering in his ear until he grew weary of fighting her constant demands. I refused to sell because I wanted to preserve our family heritage for future generations. When Brenda realized I would not bow to her pressure, she filed a malicious lawsuit claiming I was mismanaging shared assets. That was the moment I realized my patience was being mistaken for weakness by a greedy relative. On the morning of the court hearing, I arrived directly from a solemn memorial service for a fallen comrade, wearing my official uniform and medal. When I entered the courtroom, Brenda looked over at her lawyer and smiled as if victory was already guaranteed. The presiding magistrate, Judge Arthur Prescott, was notorious for his immense ego and deep disdain for service members. He looked at my chest with immediate disgust and banged his heavy wooden gavel. Judge Prescott leaned over his bench and loudly announced that his courtroom was not a place for showing off combat awards. I kept my voice completely flat and respectful as I explained that I had just come from a memorial service. He did not care about the emotional context and ordered me to remove the decoration immediately. The entire room went dead silent as my attorney prepared to raise a strong legal objection to the unreasonable demand. I motioned for my lawyer to stay seated because I preferred to handle the situation with quiet precision. I asked the judge if his command was an official instruction of the court, and he arrogantly confirmed that it was. Brenda let out a quiet sigh of delight, believing I was being humbled in front of everyone. In the gallery, a couple of elderly veterans stared at my medal with profound anger at the blatant disrespect. Instead of arguing or creating a public scene, I calmly opened my briefcase on the table with a soft metallic click. Brenda watched me with growing curiosity while Judge Prescott tapped his pen impatiently against his wooden bench. Inside my folder were official documents that I had prepared weeks earlier after anticipating this exact type of judicial misconduct. I requested permission to approach the bench and walk the blue folder directly to the judge. Judge Prescott opened the binder with visible annoyance, expecting routine paperwork that he could dismiss without thought. The first sheet was the official citation confirming my medal, signed by top military authorities. The second sheet was a Department of Defense verification record that proved the authenticity of my service beyond any question. The judge went entirely still as his eyes scanned the official military seals stamped across the heavy white paper. The final sheet was a clear policy directive issued by legal counsel regarding the protected status of military honors in judicial proceedings. It explicitly outlined that forcing a decorated officer to strip legitimate medals without legal cause violated court guidelines and established administrative protocol. As Judge Prescott read those words, the deep color drained from his face and his confident posture completely collapsed before the entire room. The magistrate realized he had just committed a massive professional error on the official transcript in front of multiple witnesses. My attorney stood up and requested that the remarks made by the judge be preserved word for word in the final record. The court clerk then confirmed that all audio and video recording equipment had been active during the entire exchange. Brenda sat frozen in her seat as she watched her judicial lie unravel completely. Judge Prescott tried to regain control of his room, but his voice lacked its previous authority and trembled slightly. He knew that a formal ethics board review would likely jeopardize his long career on the bench. Brenda realized her plan to humiliate me had backfired spectacularly, destroying her credibility in front of the court. The judge quickly dismissed the petition against me, refusing to risk any further official scrutiny of his outrageous behavior. We walked out of the courthouse with our heads held high, leaving Brenda to face the reality of her failed ambition. Russell called me later that evening to express his deep regret and promised that he would never allow Brenda to harass me again. The family home remained safe, standing strong just as our parents had intended when they passed it down to us. I placed my medal back in its velvet box with quiet pride. The outcome of that day proved that patience and preparation will always dismantle arrogance and deceit. Brenda thought she could use a courtroom to corner me, but she failed to realize that true strength does not rely on noise or intimidation. She lost her standing in the family and ruined her leverage because she let greed guide her actions. I continued to cherish our family home, knowing that honor and truth had prevailed in the end. Standing up for your dignity does not require loud shouting or anger when you carry the truth on your side. Brenda thought she could weaponize the law against me, but she only exposed her own arrogance to the world. True strength lies in remaining calm under pressure and letting facts do the talking when others try to tear you down. Integrity will always outlast deceit, no matter how powerful your opponent appears to be in the moment.